This train station may not appear intimidating at first glance, but believe me, it is the most frightening one I've encountered. Suddenly, an unusual noise resonated from the train tunnel. The disturbing sound intensified, even affecting the environment around Sebastian. A man in the crowd felt that something was amiss. He considered leaving but lingered a moment too long. Those near the tunnel were impacted by the chilling sound, their eyes visibly changing color. They began throwing themselves onto the tracks as the train approached, drawn toward it as if in a trance. In the midst of this turmoil, Sebastian almost fell onto the tracks but managed to regain his balance just in time to avert calamity. Shortly after, his wife called, urging him to come home right away and to pick up their daughter Anna from school. The situation around him intensified as Sebastian observed his colleagues starting to take their own lives right before him. Fear overwhelmed him, prompting him to flee the office. Outside, a man plummeted from above, crashing onto his car and wrecking it on impact. The city had plunged into disorder, with people scattering in terror and vehicles careening out of control, resulting in accidents everywhere. Against the odds, Sebastian managed to escape and hurried toward Anna's school. Upon arrival, he discovered the staff deceased and the building in shambles, with fires raging through classrooms and children frozen in fear. Grabbing Anna, he protected her as they navigated through the devastation. On their way, they passed a church where a priest halted him, proclaiming that what was unfolding was a divine gift, a miracle. However, Sebastian had no interest in miracles. His sole focus was on ensuring his family's safety. Without saying another word, he pressed on. Outside, he eventually spotted his wife, but just moments after their reunion, a speeding car suddenly appeared and struck her, killing her instantly. Months later, Sebastian and his daughter, Anna, are enjoying their time at a deserted skateboarding arena. Their tranquility is suddenly disrupted by a noise, prompting them to flee, only to be confronted by a group of sightless thieves who take all their food. Although injured, Sebastian attempts to defend himself, but Anna intervenes. Later, he expresses his gratitude, realizing that the assailants were merely hungry and in need. A warning blares from the radio, alerting that strange aliens are on the loose and advising individuals not to look directly at them, as they possess the ability to manipulate minds and lead people to harm themselves. Sebastian and Anna shield their eyes and venture outdoors, where he meets some people who have also covered their eyes with fabric. He inquires if they have food, as he has not eaten for days. Initially reluctant, they are swayed when Sebastian reveals he is an engineer familiar with the location of his company's generator that can supply power and warmth. Just then, the unsettling energy of the aliens starts to draw near, prompting them to bring Sebastian along. They take him to their hidden facility, where numerous survivors are seeking refuge. One of the men, Marcial, observes Sebastian's injury and advises him to consult Liliana, a doctor who is also in hiding. She tends to Sebastian's wounds and inquires about what transpired. He responds that he was involved in a confrontation with some thugs. Later, she provides him with food, and all the survivors gather around a fire. A blind man begins recounting his experience, stating that the aliens nearly captured him, but he blinded himself with a knife and narrowly escaped. He also notes that the aliens mark their victims with a peculiar eye symbol on their foreheads. When everyone later drifts off to sleep in the bus, Sebastian unexpectedly starts the vehicle. Liliana questions him about why he's activating it, but Sebastian coolly reassures her that all will be well and accelerates. The other survivors awaken and attempt to stop him, but he tightly grasps the steering wheel and speeds up, destroying the facility and everything in his way. Eventually, the bus crashes and overturns, injuring everyone inside. At that moment, the aliens arrive, and Mariel, severely injured, stumbles out of the bus and inadvertently locks eyes with the aliens. He quickly takes his own life with a sharp piece of shrapnel. Liliana also exits, trembling yet keeping her eyes closed. Sebastian calmly instructs her not to be afraid and forcefully opens her eyes with his fingers. She briefly glimpses the aliens and dies. Another man spots the aliens and tosses his lit cigarette into the leaking petrol from the bus, igniting an explosion that engulfs everything in flames. Sebastian witnesses the golden light of souls exiting the bodies of the victims. At that moment, It becomes clear that Anna is simply a manifestation of Sebastian's mind. She commends him, calling him a savior, and tells him he acted rightly, as now everyone's souls will be released. To find a better situation, Sebastian traverses a dim passage and encounters multiple individuals nailed to a wall, their hands restrained. Most are lifeless, yet one man fights to survive, whispering in anguish that the beings tormenting them are extraterrestrial monsters destined to annihilate everyone. Unfazed, Sebastian calmly asserts that they are angels. He gently closes the eyes of the fading man and visualizes his spirit ascending into the heavens. Moments later, Sebastian resumes his pursuit of new victims. He spots a woman entering a pharmacy, her eyes covered with fabric. Like many others who have learned to avoid gazing at the aliens. Hearing his approach, she halts and inquires about his identity, introducing herself as Claire. Sebastian begins to recite his typical falsehood, stating he is famished and hasn't eaten in days, but possesses knowledge of a working generator. Soon, two of Claire's friends, Rafa and Octavio, arrive with their two dogs, expressing suspicion and debating the idea of letting in another. Claire finds Sebastian's reference to the generator peculiar yet intriguing, believing he might be valuable. Just as their discussion is about to unfold, the presence of an alien entity approaches, leaving no room for debate. They are compelled to bring Sebastian along as they escape to their refuge, a secure nuclear bunker. Once inside, Sebastian meets the rest of the group, including Sophia, a young German girl, and an older couple, Isabel and Roberto. Claire gives Sophia a chocolate she had saved from the outside world, instantly brightening the little girl's expression with delight. Rafa and Octavio take Sebastian aside, eager for more details about the generator. In Sebastian's thoughts, Anna cautions him against divulging the truth and insists he fabricate a story to get them out quickly. He heeds her suggestion, confessing that he invented the tale about the generator. This enrages Rafa and Octavio, who prepare to expel him from the bunker. Just as they are about to act, Sophia interjects, speaking in German, a language that none of the others comprehend. Sebastian relays that she instructed them not to expel him, which astonishes the group, as up until this point, no one had comprehended Sophia's words or even been aware of her origins. Filled with gratitude and curiosity, they choose not to banish Sebastian and instead entrust him with the mission of uncovering more about Sophia's background. Sophia then begins to recount her tale, with Sebastian serving as the translator for the others. She describes a moment when she and her mother were ascending a ramp, suddenly hearing loud shouts as chaos erupted, causing people to panic, push, and shove in fear. She witnessed many taking their lives by leaping into the river. Miraculously, she and her mother found refuge inside a van. Within the van, they picked up a radio broadcast that spoke of a safe haven in the mountains. Upon hearing this, the group inquires about the location, but Sophia cannot pinpoint it precisely. She grabs a piece of chalk and starts illustrating it on the wall. She draws a castle situated atop a mountain, leading Clara to propose that it might be castle. Sophia carries on with her narrative, stating that she and her mother covered their eyes with blindfolds before exiting the van, but during their flight, she stumbled and fell. Separated from her mother, she would never see her again. Overwhelmed with emotion, Sophia starts to weep, and Claire softly comforts her, informing the others that she discovered Sophia and welcomed her. The group begins to discuss the possibility of heading to the castle. Sebastian insists that it's worth pursuing, as there might be other survivors and possibly Sophia's mother. He points out that remaining in the bunker will not ensure their survival for long. Roberto, however, disagrees, cautioning that it could be a mission that leads to death. As the group votes, a majority supports the idea of leaving. Despite his reservations, Roberto ultimately concedes. That night, Sebastian once more sees the shadowy figure of Anna, who starts to influence him with her words. Under her influence, he discreetly cuts part of the ropes binding the dogs, planning for them to escape when chaos ensues the following day with the arrival of the aliens, creating a diversion. Morning brings upheaval as the aliens arrive, and the ropes of the dogs snap, igniting confusion. When the aliens emerge, everyone begins to relive their most horrifying memories. Claire is tormented by her brother's death, while Sophia hears her mother's voice softly encouraging her to remove her blindfold. Just as Sophia reaches for it, Octavio intervenes and halts her in time. Meanwhile, Rafa is desperately searching for his dogs, and when he cannot locate them, he becomes desperate. He removes his blindfold and gazes directly at the aliens. Overcome with intensity, he violently strikes his head against a car windshield, resulting in his own death. Claire, still ensnared in memories of her brother, sits with her head cradled in her hands, crippled by mental anguish. Octavio attempts to bring her back to reality while searching for a secure location for everyone to move to. Meanwhile, Roberto was on a quest for Rafa when one of the dogs, now under alien influence, bites him fiercely, causing blood to pour from his arm. Octavio shouts to the group, urging them towards the safe zone, calling for Rafa, yet he cannot locate him. Claire tells him with pain that Rafa is dead, and upon hearing this, Octavio collapses in devastation. Back inside, Isabel tends to Roberto's injury as she wraps his arm. Roberto murmurs that he heard she had been unfaithful, but Isabel reassures him that it is a falsehood, suggesting it is the aliens corrupting his memories to weaken him psychologically. Later, Octavio shares his belief that the aliens may originate from a quantum dimension, theorizing that they alter their physical appearances based on people's deepest fears and manipulate those fears to dominate their victims. Claire reveals her brother struggled with clinical depression, and despite her being a psychiatrist, she could not aid him, leaving her with lingering guilt. She turns to Sebastian and inquires what he experienced mentally during the alien onslaught. However, he interrupts her, asking instead about Sophia's whereabouts. Claire attempts to pursue Sophia, but Sebastian gently advises her to rest and offers to check on the girl. He manages to find Sophia. In solitude, he sits quietly, tears flowing, as he kneels beside her and presents a locket. This trinket was once a gift for Anna on her birthday. The narrative then transitions to a recollection from 7 months prior, where Sebastian kisses Anna, promising a forthcoming celebration. Fast forward to the present, Anna's voice resonates in Sebastian's mind, questioning his choice to give the pendant to Sophia. As he stands there, Claire enters and, noticing something amiss, inquires about Anna's true identity. Is she his spouse or child, especially since the pendant has Anna's name engraved on it? She presses further, asking if he heard Anna's voice when the aliens came. Claire, revealing her background as a psychiatrist, gently offers her assistance, reassuring him that she seeks nothing in return. She attempts to explain that his experiences are a kind of manipulation by the aliens that he must face. Sharing her own story, she reveals how she too heard her deceased brother's voice but came to understand that it was not genuine. Behind Claire, Anna's illusion attempts to entice Sebastian once more, imploring him to disregard Claire's words. Sebastian is visibly torn, nearly embracing Claire's logic, when abruptly, a piercing scream from Roberto shatters the tension. His infection has escalated, spreading rapidly. Sebastian and Octavio swiftly don blindfolds and set out to find Claire. She enters a restroom laden with medicine cabinets, while Sebastian and Octavio investigate another area. Octavio discovers no medication, but he uncovers some food, calling out to Sebastian to check on him. In the meantime, Anna's whispers invade Sebastian's thoughts. Distracted, he tells her that all the windows are shut and that it's safe to go back. However, when Octavio enters the space, he spots a window wide open. Temporarily removing his blindfold, he locks eyes with the aliens and is instantly ensnared by their influence. In a fit of panic, he grabs a knife and violently stabs himself in the abdomen until he succumbs. Sebastian watches in terror, deeply unsettled. Unlike the others, he does not witness Octavio's soul ascend from his body. Instead, he is filled with profound regret. Claire rushes in, drawn by the noise, urgently informing Sebastian that they must leave. Anna's voice continues to beckon him, pressing him to remove Claire's blindfold, but Claire pulls him away before he can respond. They return to Isabel and Roberto. Isabel inquires about Octavio's whereabouts, and Claire, with a quavering voice, replies that he didn't survive. She hands the antibiotics to Isabel for Roberto's care. Then Isabel questions why Sebastian is distanced from the group, to which Clara explains that he is extremely shaken and believes that Octavio perished because he may have left the window ajar. It's evident that guilt weighs heavily on Sebastian. Later, Anna again confronts Sebastian in his thoughts, demanding to know why he failed to take off Clara's blindfold. Sebastian explains that when Octavio died, he did not see his soul depart. A Sandana accuses him of losing his faith. Sebastian, feeling broken, admits that perhaps he isn't a savior and may actually be a wolf instead. As Claire, Sebastian, and the elderly couple step outside once more, they run into individuals under alien control, referred to as the Seers. The leader among the Seers turns out to be the same priest Sebastian encountered at the church 9 months ago. Amidst the chaos, the elderly couple, Roberto and Isabel, become separated from the main group. The aliens quickly surround them, and they comprehend that this is the end. Roberto gazes at Isabel, yearning for one final moment together. They take off their blindfolds, silently bid farewell, and are soon overwhelmed. Meanwhile, Clara finds Sebastian's goggles, which allow him to perceive things clearly. The truth dawns on her instantly. Sebastian has been deceitful all along. He is not merely another survivor, he is allied with the aliens. She realizes he probably played a role in Octavio and Rafa's deaths, along with potentially others. Taking Sofia by the hand, she moves away from him, determined to safeguard the girl. Conversely, Sebastian continues to hear Anna's voice echoing in his mind, constantly manipulating him by suggesting that only 2 more must die for their reunion to happen. Clara guides Sofia to the bunker ceiling, instructing her to keep the blindfold on no matter the circumstances. However, Sebastian follows closely behind. Claire, attempting to maintain her distance, missteps due to her blindfold and tumbles down the stairs, losing consciousness. Now, Sofia stands alone before Sebastian, as Anna's voice presses him to take off the girl's blindfold. He reaches out, on the verge of giving in, but is overwhelmed by emotion, rendering him unable to proceed. Does not wish to harm Sofia. Instead, he holds her close, and something within him transforms. For the first time in ages, he starts to feel alive again. A memory emerges from 7 months prior, on Anna's birthday, as Sebastian joins his daughter in celebration. The happiness is fleeting as the priest intrudes into their sanctuary. He seizes Anna and Sebastian, pulling them to the ceiling, where he marks Anna's forehead with ink resembling an eye, and compels her to open her gaze. Under the alien's influence, she leaps from the edge, leaving Sebastian devastated. In fury, he glares at the priest but then locks eyes with the aliens. That moment is enough for them to seize control of his thoughts. Anna's ghostly figure materializes next to him, grasping his hand and assuring him of their reunion. Back in the present, Sebastian reconnects with Claire and Sofia, striving to convey his regret. Clara distrusts him and maintains her distance, but Sebastian asserts he was misled. He genuinely thought he was the chosen one. Now, he recognizes the truth. It was all a deception. His sole desire is to ensure their survival. Unlike the others, he can clearly see the aliens and stay alive. That's the only edge he possesses. Meanwhile, the Seers begin to track the trio, prompting Sebastian to swiftly guide Claire and Sofia away. One of the Seers catches up, launching an attack and digging her fingers into his eyes in an effort to blind him. In an unexpected surge of power, Sebastian pushes her away, causing her to fall and perish. Without hesitation, he loads Clara and Sofia into a vehicle and heads toward the mountain castle. On his journey, he frequently glimpses Anna's shadow, which prompts him to retreat and surrender, yet he perseveres. Ultimately, he arrives at the base of the cable lift tower, the only pathway leading directly to the mountain where the army has established a refuge. Within the castle, he halts the vehicle near the primary entrance. An obstruction prevents a straightforward route for the Seers to pursue. After assisting Claire and Sofia, he ignites the vehicle by setting its fuel tank ablaze. This cable lift stands as their last chance of escape as Claire and Sofia get ready to board. Sebastian informs them that it's time to separate. Claire implores him to join them, but he insists on remaining behind to hinder the seers. Claire, albeit reluctantly, bids farewell and begins the ascent with Sophia. During the climb, Sophia almost tumbles through a gap in the stairs and begins to fall. Claire reacts swiftly, seizing her hand just in time. Recognizing that they would not succeed otherwise, she removes her blindfold to help guide them safely, fully aware of the dangers involved. Meanwhile, the father arrives with his followers just as they reach the vehicle, which explodes in a tremendous blast, sending flames and smoke everywhere and blocking their exit. Infuriated but resolute, the father calls out to Sebastian, asserting that he has been selected for a higher purpose by the aliens. He urges Sebastian to yield and participate in their divine mission, but Sebastian remains steadfast. He refuses and proclaims that he will never be a slave to those beings. Gripping a metal rod, he gets ready for confrontation with defiance in his gaze, declaring his disbelief in their false deity. Meanwhile, Claire reaches the top of the chairlift tower and tries to activate the lift, only to quickly realize that the power supply is down and the lift will not function. A new idea comes to her as she spots a large bell nearby. She begins to ring it loudly, hoping to draw the aliens' attention. The sound captures the aliens' interest, and they start to move closer. The energy from the aliens activates as the chairlift comes to life. Sebastian's consciousness begins to fall under the alien's weight. It attempts to persuade him that the father has arrived to liberate them all, guiding them toward freedom. While observing the flames from the car, he envisions Anna entirely enveloped in fire. This haunting image nearly shatters his determination, yet he battles to reclaim his composure. The aliens encircle Claire and Sophia, trying to dominate their minds. Claire once again hears the voice of her late brother. In the meantime, Sebastian grapples with the distressing vision of Anna consumed by flames but consciously redirects his focus. He reassures himself that this cannot be Anna since she is gone. With a gained resolve, he strikes the rod forcefully against the father's midsection, while Sophia teeters dangerously close to the tower's edge. Claire manages to seize her just in time. Claire then concentrates on the chairlift, timing the doors opening and closing. She deduces that the complete cycle takes precisely 4 seconds. Armed with this insight, she strategizes to leap just before the lift doors shut. Meanwhile, the father lunges at Sebastian, inflicting grave injuries, causing blood to drip from his body. Nevertheless, he remains resolute. The father derides him, asserting his unavoidable demise. However, Sebastian counters that he might fall, but Claire and Sophia will endure, willing to sacrifice himself for their safety in memory of his lost daughter. As Claire's mind is invaded by the alien forces, she struggles to hold on to her sanity. Counting seconds internally, she waits until the opportune moment to leap onto the chairlift, taking Sophia with her. Both Claire and Sophia successfully reach safety, filled with deep thankfulness as Claire silently expresses her gratitude to Sebastian in her heart. Meanwhile, as Sebastian takes his last breaths, Anna appears in his final moments. She envelops him in an embrace, providing comfort as he slips away. Claire and Sophia ultimately arrive at the castle's safety, where soldiers begin to escort them for an inquiry. The facility is immense, housing many survivors from the city. Sophia's mother recognizes her, leading to an intensely emotional reunion between them. Sophia's mother expresses her appreciation to Claire for ensuring her daughter's safety. Afterward, soldiers take Claire for her inquiry. A medical officer inspects Claire's eyes to determine if she has had any interaction with the aliens. Claire clarifies that she hasn't aligned with the aliens, but one individual from their side assisted her in reaching this location. She also mentions that many others are still in need of assistance. The medical officer then gives Clara an injection, prompting her to ask about its necessity. The officer explains that it consists of a chemical marker intended to identify any epigenetic alterations in her DNA, which can happen due to stress and trauma, transforming individuals into seers who can perceive the aliens without dying yet remain under their influence. Clara starts to realize that a similar transformation may have occurred to Sebastian when his daughter died in front of him. His DNA likely changed. Her blood could potentially be utilized to develop a vaccine. Meanwhile, in a laboratory, 2 Army researchers are utilizing the blood from a captured seer to formulate a vaccine. They have been conducting tests on rats, and thus far they have succeeded in keeping the rats alive for 48 seconds after exposing them to an alien shadow. However, they have recently created a novel serum compound that they believe can enhance the rat's survival to 1 minute. The new compound is administered to the rats for testing, but the experiment once again proves unsuccessful, resulting in the rapid death of the rats. In the meantime, the seer continues to cry out repeatedly, yearning to witness the aliens, and this is how the narrative concludes.